you could win $500 by simply sharing the wildest story that ever happened to you at work. Hey, I'm Kelly Kennedy, host of the I Used to Work There podcast, a podcast dedicated to shedding a light on all of the crazy, wild, funny, dark, and inspiring things that happen to us throughout our work lives. We are holding our very first Employee of the Month competition, which means if you submit a story between June 15th and July 31st, 2026, it will be eligible for a $500 USD cash prize. The only question left is this. Are you going to be the Employee of the Month?
She's like, haunted house, eh? And I'm like, yeah, show me around. And I said, okay. So we go upstairs into my office area. And she's like, he likes it cold in here. And I said, who does? The old man who lives in this space.
Welcome to I Used to Work There. We have 5 stories for you today. A scary prison incident, a bank robbery, and what happens when you have workers who aren't even there. This is I Used to Work There. I have been looking forward to this show for quite some time. If you have a work story that has stuck with you, something scary, something unexplainable, something that to this day makes you question, I can't believe I used to work there, I want your stories. If you have stories for this show, submit them, hr@iusedtoworkthere.com. Our show is broken up into 2 different segments. Day shift for the funny, inspiring, exciting, and maybe a little strange stories. And night shift for our darker, scary, I can't believe that happened stories. And for our very first story, we are starting off on the day shift. Our first story comes from Stephen Langer. Stephen, you have an incredible story for us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kelly. Always fun to spend some time with you, my friend.
So you have a work story for us.
Yeah, it was my first professional job as a teacher. And what a way to start, man. When you're a teacher, your job is just to get a job first because it's hard to get one. And often when you're teaching, you sort of take whatever assignment you get, whatever subjects you're meant to teach. And I got lucky, actually. I was in a junior high school and teaching pretty much every subject under the sun. But one of the subjects that I got to teach was outdoor ed. And I have a background in outdoor education. I love camping and grew up camping. And then I even took outdoor ed in college. So the idea of doing outdoor education was perfect. This was my golden subject. And I took over from a teacher who had done it for years and left me all his supplies. And I didn't want any of it because it was all outdated anyway. But one of the things that we got to do was a camp in the winter.
Amazing.
We're taking our kids out into the outback. And so the idea was we're going to take our kids for 2 nights, junior high, grades 8 to 9. And we're going to take them for 2 nights in the middle of February. And we're sleeping in lean-to shelters, cooking everything over an open flame. What can go wrong? Right? And so, and then a bunch of activities throughout the day. Now, the cool thing is I was in a rural area. So you got a lot of kids that have a hunting background, an outdoor background. They were the ones that were most at risk because they're the ones like, oh, I got this. I know exactly what to do. I've always been camping. And they're the ones that make all the mistakes. And then you get these people that have never been outdoors, these kids that have never experienced it, and they're listening to every word you say. And as we're prepping and planning for this camp, they're ready to go, right? So we finally get out there. Weather's fine. Shelter's built. First night's great. Everybody cooks over a flame. They got to have their fire done overnight. We had a beauty night. And we get up the next day. And this camp had been recommended to me, as I said, by the former teacher. I should have probably done a little bit more digging into this place, but he'd been there for years and was like, it's great. So I'm like, okay, we're going.
Yeah.
And so the activities that we were doing, one of them was orienteering off in the forest. One of them was archery, and one of them was a shooting range with long-range rifles at targets.
Okay.
Right? Wicked. Right? You're going to have a blast.
Yeah.
It was myself, and I had a couple of parent volunteers, and then the guy coordinating the camp. So I put one of the other staff members and a parent volunteer down at archery. I put 2 parent volunteers with the camp coordinator at the shooting range, because the guy's going to run the range, 2 parents there to help with the kids, and I took the kids out into the forest. So that was our 3 groups, divided them into 3. I'm doing the orienteering, 2 parents at the range, and then the archery. Okay. You think it's going to go well, everything's going great, right? We're having a blast. Well, what happened was one of the parents from the shooting range had to go offsite to the archery because something happened over there and they needed to go and help. Okay, great. So now we're down to 1 parent at the shooting range with the person manning the station. That parent showed up in the forest to come and get me and said to me, while I'm dealing with kids out in the middle of the bush, I don't know where the guy is running the range, but the kids still have the guns.
Oh my God.
I was like, what?
Oh no.
And I said, tell me you didn't leave the kids with the guns. Yeah, I told them to put them down. And so what happened was, as I found out later, so one of the parents went to the archery to deal with the situation with the kid who was not having a good time. The person running the range actually went into their home. They had a history of abuse and like alcohol abuse and stuff like that. And they took off and they just left. And they left the parent in charge of the rifle range who had no backing and no grounds doing this.
Yeah.
And that parent didn't know what to do and was freaking out, so came to get me. But in doing so, they left the kids with the guns.
Wow. Wow. So hopefully nothing bad happened.
Well, so I left all the kids in the forest now to fend for themselves. And because I'm like, okay, nobody get lost. You're here. I know you're in this range.
Order of danger. Order of danger.
Yeah. I got kids running wild out in the bush. I got kids with guns with unattended. And so I'm going there. And so that parent brought me over to come and save the situation. So in my first year as a teacher, I'm walking into a scenario where kids were left unattended with long-range rifles loaded.
Oh my gosh. But nothing happened, right? Like all was good?
In the end, it worked out perfectly. The kids had put the guns down and were sitting nicely on a bench waiting for me to come. They actually followed through and listened to a T. Then once we got there, we obviously shut that space down. We went back and we got our kids. Let me tell you what I had to do to get that guy out of his house so we could figure out what was going on. But our bus was there in half an hour and we were out and we came home. Yeah. That was the end of our camp. That was an unsafe situation that we needed to navigate in a hurry, deal with crisis and conflict and those types of things. But thankfully, as I said, I'm trained in outdoor education, so I was able to sort the scenario out quite well and move ourselves towards safety. But you don't think you're going to end up as a first-year teacher in a situation where you got kids lost in a forest while a bunch of kids are going to be set loose with guns at a rifle range unattended, right?
No kidding.
And grade 8 and 9 kids of all, right? Yeah. I'm surprised they weren't doing target practice with each other.
Oh my God. Well, you can give a little more credit. We weren't that crazy.
I dare you to run across the range and see if you can make it without getting hit.
Oh
I
my
can
God.
see that scenario happening, right? Right?
It's so funny because
you can't.
I look back to being a kid and I remember being about that age at summer camp, not February camp, summer camp, but same thing. There being archery ranges, shooting ranges, you name it. Like that was really growing up in Alberta at the time. And just so much fun. Such a great experience for kids. Yeah. But man, I can't imagine just the adults leaving kids with guns. Like I can't, regardless of the scenario, man, not a good idea.
I totally get that parent being stuck because once the rifle range, the manager, the camp coordinator left, now they're stuck and they don't know what to do. So what did they do? They need to go get help. And so I get why they're you just stay put, don't move. So I'm, kind of thankful that they did that, even though that's a really dangerous move. They could have said to kid, but the kid might have gotten lost. And so I get it. And I was thinking back, like, okay, could I have had better supervision? Well, I mean, you're thinking 2 parents plus the coordinator of the camp. That's pretty good, and then 1 staff member and a parent out at the archery, and I got the orienteering. Like, that's pretty secure. We should be in good shape. Looking back, I'm not sure I would have even gotten a better read on this person's personal situation by going out and looking at the camp, because it looked like a well-run camp. The day was safe. There was spacing. There was good reputation. So who knows what was really going on in that situation. Now, moving forward, I actually continued to do camps for years. I did a whole lot of research, and I ended up at a proper hunter education academy. And we did this twice a year, and we still did, sleeping in lean-tos, cooking over open flames. Kids were shooting skeet. Kids were shooting at targets 300 yards away. We were doing archery. We were doing wildlife identification. It turned into be one of my favorite experiences because, as I said, kids that typically wouldn't have some experience like this would go outside and realize that in February, yes, you can sleep outside and you can love it. And it's so amazing out there. And then you see them, pushing themselves to the limits and, getting firewood that's as tall as they are. And they never thought they could do this. Right. And, it's awesome. Right. And, one of my favorite things was every hour we had to take a trip around just to make sure none of the fires had gone out in the night. So 2:00 in the morning, you're going for a walk. Right, me and one other person would go for a walk, and if the fire is going out, we'll stoke it for them so they can stay warm. And sometimes the kids are awake, so you get these like 3:00 in the morning stargazing conversations with junior high kids where you otherwise wouldn't get that. And then now, try to teach them math. It's easy, right? Like you have that time with them, they are bought in. So long story short, what a whirlwind of a first year experience, but it turned into be one of my favorite things.
Amazing. No, that's wild. And, we're actually looking to send our kids to summer camp for the very first year this year as well. So looking forward to it. And thanks, Stephen, for looking after those kids.
You got it, buddy. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
To all my teachers out there, thank you for everything you do, all you put up with. And if you have a story, be like Stephen and let us know. We want to hear it. Our next story is from Stephanie in Alberta. Hey, Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kelly. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here and to be on the auspicious Kelly Kennedy show. And I have so many stories that I'm trying to think of like the best one to share with you. So I think the one that I'm going to pick first. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
So I worked up on northern Alberta. This is where I started my business. And so I was working with a bunch of guys, and there's a few ladies that I work with, but mostly a bunch of dudes, and they like to bug each other. So there's this one guy that, he liked to give it as good as he could get it, and he was new on site, and the name hires, right? So they would always have the group of guys that would go from job to job to job, and every new job would have like a new safety thing and a new couple of rules. So they had the H2S monitor, right? And I don't know how they talked this guy into it, but they gave him a tampon, and he walked around literally for 2 days with the tampon hanging off the front of his coat, saying that it was the HUS monitor, and it was not for days.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. For the people who may or may not know, if you're not from oil and gas country, you might not know what an H2S monitor is. H2S is a gas, a deadly gas that can come out of the ground that you can't smell. So you need a monitor in order to be able to tell, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So nobody on site flagged this guy and was like, dude, that is not an H2S
I don't know if it was completely against all safety regulations, they didn't give him 2. You need to wear this and that? I don't know, but I do know that they definitely put a tampon hanging off the front of his coat for 2 days.
Oh my goodness. Did you spend a long time working in oil and gas, Stephanie?
Yeah, let me see. I think it was 2005 until 2007. yeah, I worked up in safety training, and after that, office manager, document control, right on the site, taking the bus out to site every day. So, yeah.
My gosh. Well, thank you so much for the time that you put in, and thank you for an incredible story.
You're welcome. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to share it.
Shout out to all my tradespeople out there. We want more stories like this. So if you've worked in the trades and you have stories that are crazy, fun, exciting, inspiring, or maybe a little dark, let us know. Thanks again, Stephanie. For our third and final day shift story of the episode, it is my pleasure to welcome Jillian calling from Edmonton. Welcome to the show.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give a little backstory because I've had a lot of jobs, and honestly, I could probably tell 30 stories, not just one, but we'll keep it succinct today.
You know, you can call back anytime.
You'd be like, and here's Jillian again.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. That's how this thing works.
No, so I was at the time doing, what was I doing at the time? Well, I had shifted from hairstyling into graphic design. So I was doing graphic design kind of my own business, kind of contract work. And then I was also working in a flower shop at the same time.
Okay.
And just feeling a little bit unfulfilled, a little bit like I need to be more helpful in the world. Like I need to do something more purposeful was the vibe. Okay. And so my hairstylist, who was a good friend, I was kind of telling her I wanted to do something different. And she was talking about her mom who worked in corrections. And she's like, I could see about getting you a job. I think they need a psych assistant. And one of the many things that I have done is got a psychology degree way back when. So it was kind of like, I feel like I should use my psychology degree. Like I should be more actively helping people. And so, yeah, she got me a job in corrections as a psych assistant.
Okay.
And it was actually really cool. I mean, there were elements, like it was obviously not super comfortable to go through security every day and to be, technically working with, criminals in quotations. But what I learned super fast, which was part of why I loved working there, was that there's actually not a lot that separates us when you actually really think about it. Like there was someone who was in there for like fraud, but it was like under 5,000. And, I don't know about you, but I've got family members who've done worse shit. So not naming any names, Uncle Bob. Just kidding. So there were places where I was just like, oh my gosh, and like really lovely people who got caught doing things that like making mistakes, essentially.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously also like dangerous offenders and this sort of thing. But I was working in minimum security and I was doing psychological testing, like cognitive testing. And so at one point I was offered to go do testing at another prison with offenders who were more dangerous, and said yes, because I actually didn't even think about it. It just felt like an opportunity. And yeah, so traveled and did that. And then when I was doing the testing, the room that I walked into, there was like, especially with dangerous people, you're fucking noticing what's around you in the environment, right? Like stabby things, particularly.
You're like, what is here that could be dangerous?
Potentially stabby around us. Yeah. And so I noticed that there was like X amount of pens on the desk. And so at one point, this fellow asked to go to the washroom. Like, yeah, no problem. And I panicked looking at the desk thinking, oh my God, one of the pens is missing. And I just remember, so the moment where you like black out with fear, you lose access to your frontal lobe, everything is sweating, and you're like, am I gonna die? Like, is this it? Is this it? Here comes the stabbing, or whatever it is, And yeah, it was really disheartening, like really, really actually quite scary. And it was the first time I had been actually, like I had done testing in maximum security, technically with violent offenders before. And, you notice the stress response a little bit. And I just really honestly just put myself in the position of just believing in the good of humanity. Mm-hmm. But when that lizard brain kicks in and you think you're going to die, like that feels pretty fucking real,
Yeah.
So it was that moment when I actually decided to leave corrections and go back to design, and just decided that actually it is helping the fucking world. and I don't have to put myself in harm's way to make an impact. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. Oh man. Yeah, and I just want to like say shout out to the people who are working in corrections
Oh my
because
God.
yeah, like we need you.
Yeah.
And what a
thank you.
scary situation to put yourself in all the time. So
Yeah.
thank you for that, Jillian. Thank you
Yeah.
for doing what you could.
Thank you for quitting. No, I definitely like those kind of jobs. I know when I was younger, you know, what made me go into psychology is like really truly caring about humanity and humans and wanting to make that positive impact. I remember I wanted to, well, actually when I was in high school, I wanted to be a forest ranger. That's the first thing I wanted to do.
That's a cool job. You can still do that.
Well, what's wild is I now live in a forest but with others, like there's people close by, you know, like not so isolated. But I had that desire when I was in high school when we were doing like career testing. And then when I got out of high school, I was like, okay, well, no, not that. So what do I want to do? I thought I wanted to be a paramedic because it just felt like, oh, you're making an impact, you're helping people. And, you know, it's like different all the time. I'm ADHD. And so it was just like, you know, it'd be kind of cool, like doing different things and helping out. And so I did that first, I think it was EMR program at SAID at the time in Calgary. And we had to carry our instructor around the building, like up and down stairs. And I was like, what? And also, no, thank you. Like, I'm like 5'0", like 100 pounds wet. No, this is not going to work out well. Not saying like little people can't do big jobs, but I was just like, this does not feel like a good time. Okay. I also couldn't stand blood. So I don't even know what I was thinking. It was one of those things where you think it's a good idea until you actually get into it. And then you're like, never mind, this is not aligned with what I want to do in the world. And then that led me into a whole bunch of other career paths. But it was really funny to be like, no, this is not okay. That is a big deal. And so first responders work, corrections, like the things that are, you know, people just kind of take for granted. I really am so grateful for those people who are so well suited for those roles.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a great story, Jillian. Thank you so much for coming on and telling it with me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now you know.
And, you know, you can come back anytime, just so that you know you're welcome to.
Well, I do have a lot of stories, so I'll be back.
Amazing. Okay. Well, have an amazing day. Thanks for coming, Jillian.
Yeah, thank you.
Shout out to all of our corrections officers out there. Be like Jillian. Let us know if you have stories. Thank you. Now it's time to go a little bit darker. We are switching over to the night shift, and our first story is all about a bank robbery. Before we get into the darker side of this workday, let's take a little coffee break. If your garage is packed, but your dream cars deserve better than a driveway, Atlas Elite Lifts might have exactly what you need. Atlas Elite Lifts helps you create more room, protect your vehicles, and turn your garage into something worth showing off. Visit www.atlaselitelifts.com or reach out to Jamie Crozier and the team on LinkedIn. All right, lights down, volume up. It's time for the night shift. It is my pleasure to welcome Amy from Alberta. Amy, thank you for coming on the show. Thanks for believing in me for these first few episodes. And wow, you have a few stories for us today, but let's start with the first one. I'm just going to let you do it because this one is shocking.
Yeah, you bet. So thanks for having me, Kelly. I think I was excited when I heard that, you know, you were doing a podcast like this because it definitely was like, oh, okay, well, I got a bit of a platform to share these news. So the first one was definitely a little bit scary at the time. Now that I've had kind of time to reflect, I'm like, oh my God, it seems like a bit out of a movie. However, just to kind of like relay some details. So I was working in the financial sector for probably about 5 to 6 years, front teller. So I absolutely love the senior citizens in this particular part of town. They loved me. We connected immediately. There was always, you know, a lineup. I was a very popular individual. And what ended up happening, this was kind of back in the 2000s when, you know, there's definitely a lot more face-to-face. So was a teller at this particular financial institution and was really liking it. It was a lot of fun, very social, really good kind of branch. And our branch manager was very much by the books. He was very kind of it's type A personality, set it and forget it, kind of very, very factual. And he brought us all into the lunchroom one day and started kind of these anti-robbery videos. And it was just everything that you would imagine robbery videos to be. The cheesy music in the background, like dark glasses, the shifty foot situation. And
I still remember all the video training from the 90s, 2000s.
Yeah, just full on 90s. Yeah, so watch the video a couple times and eye rolling, right? Just like, why the heck am I here? Thank God I'm not on the floor. End of month was just pumping at the bank, like old age security, CPP day. My wicket was it was a party. It was a party all day those days. So ended up probably a week after the video, definitely kind of forgot about it. And, it's a very busy day, and the senior wicket was, the line to get into the senior wicket was a little bit separated than your kind of business line and your kind of regular people line, I guess. So had this gentleman come into the bank, and he's just kind of standing there, very kind of like mysterious, had the dark rim glasses. I just thought he was bougie. I gotta be honest. I was just like, this guy, maybe he had an eye surgery, just something, right? But then he started to kind of put up his hoodie, and immediately the guy in the robbery videos, and he's just like, the like Nashville kind of Bridges song comes up in my head, and I'm just like, what's happening here? So didn't really, I was young, I was a teenager, and definitely didn't want to judge a book by its cover, but obviously, he started to come closer to me, and then finally I was like, okay, the gut feeling is starting to set in. So he comes up to my till, and he slips the note, and in very kind of, I would say, bad English, was like, hey, this is a robbery. And it's funny. It's like, you'd think in those situations panic sets in, but it was just utter fear. But it was like fear of just mechanical production of tasks. So ended up, looking up, took the note, ended up kind of going to my cash dispenser, started kind of getting the money out, ended up trying to put a die pack in the cash, and he either kind of made a noise or just was like, no, I can't remember. But it was at that particular time that I ended up kind of locking eyes with one of my seniors that was waiting for his safety deposit box, kind of by the waiting room, by the customer service area. And I just remember he knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, like, that gut feeling, like, oh my gosh, if this senior comes over, it is not going to end well. So ended up trying to ignore him. He's making all kind of like, he's getting up, making all these gestures to move up. And I'm just trying really hard to, deal with this robbery. So ended up, you would think I would just like throw the money and then it would be over. No, customer service to the max. Ended up counting it out for him.
Wow.
And he's looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, there's going to be no customer service. Like, what the heck, girl? And it even just extended. I was like, would you like an envelope? And he's like, no, this is a robbery. Like, he's just like, what is happening? And then my favorite, I'll never forget it. I was like, I hope you have a great day. Like, that is just the full customer service experience. And I just remember him kind of tilting his head, and he didn't say the words, but he mouthed sorry.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh, you're just so nice. This is bad. This is really bad. So then anyways, he ends up just bolting kind of through the first kind of set of doors. And at that particular area, if you were a little bit slower, the die pack would go off, and then sensors and all that kind of stuff. So that didn't happen, obviously, because he didn't have the die pack. But I just remember that senior coming over. Like, I have never seen a man in his 80s power walk that fast in his life. Like, all that time on the golf course, it like finally paid off. I am here. And I just remember he hugged me, and then the police are there, and I'm bawling my eyes out. And he walked over to the grocery store and bought me those massive, giant cookies, and I'm eating this cookie and crying. And the police are taking my statement. They're like, can you put the cookie down? And I was like, oh, okay. And it felt like
Wow.
a movie. But I think the funny part about the story was seeing the branch manager. So again, calm, collected gentleman. And I just remember him, whispering to my ear, he's like, Amy, I've never actually had this happen. I've never been I've seen the videos too. What do we do? Right? Like, it was just
Yeah.
getting that fear. And
Yeah.
I just remember like looking at him being like, your guess is as good as mine, man. Like, this has happened. And it really did open my eyes as to like just that kind of that fleet of like emotion and drive. But my dad ended up coming to pick me up, and this is just who my dad is. And I remember the branch manager being just so nervous about what he was going to say. I think he was practicing some like stuff he was going to say, my dad. And my dad just poked his head and was like, do you have some coffee on? And I have never seen that branch manager move. Like, he got my dad the best disgusting bank coffee. Like, it was creme de la creme in terms
Wow.
of quality. So it really stuck with me. Like, I think, no one really prepares you for that kind of incident. And, years followed. I would have to go into the police station sometimes to discuss the case if there was a particular suspect that they had somehow found and things like, and that lasted years, Kelly.
Wow.
No one really talks about that. So, the emotional connection to these events can sometimes be pretty traumatic, but, had a really good support system. And, the team at the bank were lovely, but, nobody prepares you to see that, because you see it in the movies, but it does happen in real life sometimes. So
That is crazy. When I heard this story, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you don't, you see it on TV, right? But it's like, you never know anybody who's had it happen to them. That's absolutely nuts, Amy. Like, wow. That's all I have to say. How, did you suffer any post-traumatic stress from that?
yeah, so ended up, didn't think I did. And that was the big thing, is I never really gave myself the space to really recover. I was just like, Kate, we ended up traveling to Central America afterwards, pretty near the event. And what I found was, Spanish people definitely have the lack of personal boundaries. There's lots of hugging and lots of, and what I found is that gave me a lot of anxiety. So it took me a while. I think from a career path, I ended up actually changing departments probably about a year after, because I think anybody that came into the branch afterwards that was wearing a hat or, another thing too that really spooked me was Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
That was big. So we had a lot of people dress up for Halloween in the branch afterwards, and I was just a wreck.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things where you just don't, it just, it's crazy. But I think from a support network, I see that, institutions have definitely provided workers a lot more in terms of there's a lot more service offerings to individuals that have kind of experienced this, and it's not isolated, and people get to talk about it, which is nice, because it would probably be a very traumatic event had I not had my support network and the individuals that I worked with.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a wild story, Amy. Thank you so much for sharing it with us today. I think it's a perfect story for I used to work there.
No worries.
Looking forward to the next one, and we'll chat soon.
Sounds good.
Wow. That's all I can say to that one. I imagine we're going to get a lot of stories like this over time, but that's a situation that could have gone a lot worse. Thanks again, Amy, for an incredible story. Now, we've all had some bad bosses, but what happens when that fear is completely justified? Our next story is all about that. And for our next guest, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Jen. She is calling from Maine, and she has an absolutely wild story for us. Jen, go ahead.
Hi. So when I was 19 or 20, I worked for a car tune-up shop. I got that position there because my friend worked as a mechanic there. He was
Okay.
also my roommate. And so it was a really fun team. The guys in the shop, it was great. We had a lot of fun together. They would show me things, in the shop when it was slow and stuff. So I was learning about cars and I was really excited about it. The owner, however, was a really interesting sort of man. He definitely only cared about making money, and he was very particular about how he wanted his shop to be clean. And so, I have no problem with that. I did all of those things, and I think the financial success of the company was pretty good. But at one point, he brought in his son as manager, who was, kind of, he was an odd duck, sort of. I think he was in his 30s, and he had just recently started dating somebody, and his dad wasn't happy about it for some reason. And so neither one of them were in the shop, and flowers were delivered. So I took the flowers and I put them on the boss's desk. It was meant for his son from his girlfriend.
Okay.
And so the owner of the shop walked in and said, "Where did these flowers come from?" And I told him they were there for his son. And he grabbed the vase of flowers and smashed it into a trash can.
Oh my God.
Scared me. I was like,
Wow.
oh man, this guy has got some issues.
No kidding.
So I was really frustrated with that. But like I said, I really enjoyed the team I worked with, and the boss didn't come in that often. So it, I stayed there for nearly a year. And they opened an additional location in a nearby town. And so I was part of that. I helped open that shop. He took on a new business partner for this company for that location. And so I was working in that location for a few months before I ended up quitting because they started to really show their ethical problems. There was one day, there was a brand new Mustang that had come in. It was fairly new, obviously. They were doing a fuel injection clean on it, and we didn't have the bit that they needed to properly do the fuel injection cleaning, and the owner didn't want to buy one. And so they put a bottle of fuel injection cleaning in the tank and told me to charge them the $69.95 or whatever it was for the fuel injection cleaning professional.
Oh, wow.
And it was like a $10 bottle of fuel injection, and they were like, "You have to charge them this." And I was like, "I absolutely will not." And, they were like,
you.
"No, you have to do this." They were forcing me to do this. And I said, I quit, and I walked out
thank
that
you.
day.
Yeah.
And a couple of years later, my friend stayed working for him for a little while longer. And a couple of years later, I heard on the news that the owner had taken out a life insurance policy with, for the partner. And he had waited until the partner was alone in the building, dressed up like a robber, and went into the place and attempted to murder the partner to gain the life insurance policy. And he was unsuccessful. The partner got away and called the police, and then the owner killed himself rather than face those consequences.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, the business ended at that point. Yeah, this was like in the early 90s. It was quite a while ago. But yeah, it was crazy. And I went and talked to my friend, and I was like, did you have any inkling that it could be like this? And like, we all knew he was kind of crazy, but never in a million years did we think that he would try to kill somebody and then off himself. Yeah, it was pretty terrible.
Holy cow. Yeah. Like, was it like one of those situations where like everybody dreaded the owner showing up to the shop? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was not a nice person to be around.
It's so funny. I worked for not a mechanic shop, but a parts company, let's call it, in the 2000s. And I remember there's an owner of that business as well that everybody was just absolutely on eggshells every time the owner would go. Maybe I don't know. I guess we'll find out on this show. Maybe it is something to do with the automotive sector of the world, but.
No, I've not seen it everywhere. I mean, I've been in some of that. I've not seen it like this guy. I mean, certainly in the early 90s, I saw my fair share of sexual harassment and those sorts of things. But never this level of meanness. He was just not a nice person. I think that's, my interest in psychological safety in my career now. It has a lot to do with some of these experiences that I've had.
That is absolutely insane. Thank you, Jen, for an incredible story. Thank you for sharing. And I hope to have you back in the future for another story.
I don't know that I could top that one, and I'm hoping I never do.
No kidding. Amazing. Well, thank you for that. And I wish you the best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Well, that got dark in a hurry, didn't it? Crazy story. Happy that Jen left when she did, because who knows what could have happened. For our final story tonight, we always save the best for last, don't we? We are talking all about something that I hope we get a lot more submissions on this show for. We are getting into the paranormal and unexplained. And for those of you who don't know me yet, you are going to realize I love a good ghost story. I love a good unexplained story. And so if you've had an unexplained situation, whether that's a cryptid, whether that is a paranormal situation, a ghost, something you cannot explain, I want those stories on this show. Some of my favorite podcasts are the mysterious and unexplained shows, and I hope we get a little bit of that on I Used to Work There. So please, if you've had an unexplained experience and it happened to you at work, I want to hear it. Submit all your spooky stories to hr@iusedtoworkthere.com. Let's get into the final night shift story of the show. For our next story, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome James from Edmonton. James, welcome to the show.
Hey.
And please tell us your story.
Thanks, Kelly. Well, from where I'm sitting right now, I can almost see my former office. And it's a 4-floor red brick haunted house. And it's part of the haunted house tour of Edmonton. So it's not unusual for people to come up to our office at the time and knock on the door and say, "Can I come into the haunted house?" So it was kind of a known entity already.
Yeah.
And because it's a known entity, and I decided that I was going to have some fun and have a team building night at the office. So I asked everybody how comfortable they would be if I invited a friend of mine over who was a channel, so channels spirits, and is also a medium, so it was like both, right?
Okay.
Do a session, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, this is super exciting." So the person arrives. I know her. The person arrives, and she's like, haunted house, eh? And I'm like, "Yeah, show me around." And I said, "Okay." So we go upstairs into my office area, and she's like, "He likes it cold in here." And I said, "Who does?" "The old man who lives in this space. Yeah, he likes it cold. Have you ever tried to heat this space?" And I said, "Well, it's a known office space in the house that never ever gets warm, and they've sent heating companies, and everything is supposed to work, but it just doesn't work in this space."
Wow.
And she's like, interesting. Anyway, we go into we're going back to the main floor of the house, and she says, "Oh, I see there's a door going downstairs. So there's a basement?" And I said, "Yeah. Can I go down there?" And I said, "Sure." So we're all following her, right? Like my whole team of 6 people are following her everywhere. And she gets to a door that's closed, and she said, "What's behind the door?" And I said, "Oh, well, filing cabinets, dockets, envelopes, stuff like that. It's a storage area." And she's like, "That isn't a storage area." that's a little girl's room. And I said, no, I'm pretty sure it's just a storage room, to my knowledge. And she said, well, there's a little girl in there, so I need to go in and talk to her. And then she went into the room and she closed the door and she left us all standing outside of the room for like 15 minutes. And we're all just like, what is going on? Right? And so she comes out and goes, well, to start with, she's not happy that all your junk is in her room. But she's kind of stuck here. So, just so you know, there's a little girl in this room, right? And and she's not going anywhere. So she basically lives in this room.
Whoa.
And we're like, oh, okay, that's not scary, right? Anyway, we're super curious. So when she leaves, we go back into that room, and all the walls are painted white. So it's like, I don't see how, and the door was closed, right? Before she went in there, it's like, this is a little girl's room, and there's a dead girl in there, kind of thing, right? Anyway, right by the light switch, the paint was peeling off the wall, and when we pulled it back, there was old newspapers behind it, and behind that was little girl wallpaper.
Oh, wow. Wow. So after further investigation, it for sure was a little girl's bedroom.
It was a little girl's bedroom, and it was 30s, 40s wallpaper, little kids, little animals and stuff, for a little girl's room. And to make things even just a little bit more creepier, Kelly, is one of my clients at the time, I told her the story, and the next day she came over and brought a doll for the little girl in the room. And so when you walk into the room, there was a doll sitting there. Everybody knew the creepy story of it. And because I run an advertising agency and we have to name everything, I had to come up with a name for the room, so I called it the Little Dead Girl's Room.
Oh my God.
I had to really work at the title.
No kidding.
Yeah. So none of my people that worked with me, they were all women, would ever go into that room, and they would send me down there to get envelopes or something. And it's like, okay, let me just go down to the Little Dead Girl's Room and get your envelope or whatever. But and when you walk in there and there's a doll there, it's just adds a whole level of creep.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely does. Okay, well, I have to ask. So you've worked in a haunted office. It clearly was a house at one time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was clearly a house. And I guess legend has it that there's an old man with a British cap who waves out of the window of the space that I worked in.
Oh, wow. Wow.
He waves out on the street. And that's how it became a haunted, people knew that it was a haunted house, was it was some mysterious old man who would wave out the window.
Amazing. Okay, so for our listeners who are wanting to know, part of I used to work there was I wanted the scary workplace stories. So for people who know me, they know that I love a good haunted house. I love a good scary story. Some of my favorite podcasts are haunted, scary podcasts. So I'm excited, James, that you came on and shared this story with us because I really want more of these. So if you're listening to this and you have a haunted office story, you have a weird story that you've never been able to explain and it happened to you at work, I want to hear it. But, James, I have to ask, you worked in a haunted office. Did you ever have any experiences yourself?
Oh, tons in that house. Tons. I would be working there late at night by myself and doors would close. There would be creaking. And it's there's nobody else in the house than me, right? So, yeah, no, we had lots of weird experiences in that house for sure. And and the heating and cooling was very, very strange, right? There was some weird stuff going on in that house, and it's still there. A financial planner owns the house now, and he knows the legacy. When he was buying the house, I said, just so you know, there are a bunch of dead people in there. I don't know if you want to go through with the sale or not, but there are dead people in that house. But he's like, yeah, okay, well, I can work past that. But yeah, so he's in there. But yeah, and you know what? I am also dying to hear other stories. I don't know why I had to say that. But yeah.
I appreciate it, James. And thank you so much for reaching out and sharing this story with us, because I think it takes a little bit of courage, especially when we're talking about like workplaces. People are hesitant to share the things that may have happened to them. But if you're looking for a safe place to do it, come on to I Used to Work There and give us more of your haunted office stories, your paranormal stories, your I can't explain that stories, because they're some of my favorites.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have you back in the future.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
And with that, it's finally time to clock out. I hope that you enjoyed our very first episode of I Used to Work There. If you did enjoy it, please give us a follow, please give us a like, and heck, if you could leave us a review, that really helps these shows get some legs underneath of them. And of course, if you have a story, please do tell us, hr@iusedtoworkthere.com. I'm Kelly Kennedy. Thanks for listening. See you next shift.